Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, I'm trying to stay focused on the task at hand, which is what you do this time of the season. You know, the last time we got sidetracked and we started talking about things out in the distant future, we lost 3 in a row. So it's been this narrow, laser-like focus on what's next, what is immediate, right in front of us, and that is it. But I can't help but think about the short term, which is now in the playoffs and, you know, trying to advance, and the future. And it's okay to be able to do 2 things at once. And I can juggle these both simultaneously. So once again, here we are having a Kliff Kingsbury conversation. This is a great conversation to have first and foremost because it means you have someone doing their job at a very high level to the point where others value their talents and want to potentially tap into it. Something we haven't had here in Washington for a very, very long time. The last coach, think about this. Let this resonate for a second. And this is going to probably blow your mind. The last time we had a coach poached away from us during a tenure for an upgrade in job title, not a lateral move. We've seen guys like Chris Harris leave for the same exact position elsewhere. We've seen Danny Smith leave for the exact same job elsewhere, right? We've seen guys do that. I'm talking about having an upgrade, go from quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator to head coach, right? Linebackers coach to defensive coordinator to head coach. That's what I'm talking about. The last time we had that happen here was in 2016 when Sean McVay left to go to the Rams. Let that sink in, right? We haven't had someone leave here from their current post as whatever coach on the staff and go somewhere and be given a greater title than the one that they held here. That just speaks to, it didn't happen under Gruden, other than Sean McVay. It didn't happen under Rivera at all. And in year 1 of this recalibration, of this, what I think is the beginning of something big. I'm calling this the Big Bang. The Commanders' Big Bang, because everything is going to start from this season. We already have our offensive coordinator. According to Josina Anderson, take it with a grain of salt. I always tell you that when it's the Josina Anderson, you know, tidbit. However, according to Josina Anderson, Kliff Kingsbury has been contacted by at least 4 teams about their head coaching vacancy. Now, with that said, no formal interviews have been requested as far as we know. And that's what's most important to me. The Jacksonville Jaguars or the Chicago Bears or the New York Jets, none of those teams have formally requested an interview. But of the 6 vacancies, 4 of them reportedly reached out to Kliff Kingsbury, maybe to just check the temperature. Hey, are you looking for a head coaching gig right now, or are you good, or what? Now, the fact that we haven't heard about him being requested for an interview may be that he's told teams already, yo, I'm good. I think I'm going to chill here for a little bit. I'm still getting that Arizona Cardinals bread. I'm getting paid handsomely here as well. So I'm doubling up on salaries. Double up, on salaries. I'm good. I get to coach this wonderful kid who's one of the best players I've ever had a chance to coach. We're just starting and he's 12-5 in year one. I think I'm going to hang out here for a little bit. That could be the case. Or he could just be so submerged in what he's doing right now, trying to help this team win in the postseason, that he's not really worried about having an interview with the team or this, that, or the third, right? All I know is, and I told you guys this from the jump, when he first signed here, this is back in March, maybe even February. So many things happen so quickly that, it all kind of merges together. But I remember telling you guys, I don't know how long he's going to be here for. I'm just going to enjoy him while he's here. And then as we got through this season and we saw the success this team was having, then the whole second half Kliff Kingsbury thing started to crop up. And I was like, okay, well, let's just see how this goes. Because the first half of the season was spectacular. We were 7-2. And then we lost 3 straight, and everybody started reaching for answers and excuses. And so the Kliff Kingsbury second half Kliff showed up, and it became a thing. And then we won 5 in a row, and it's not a thing, right? So now, and I think I brought this up 2 weeks ago when I said, hey, I know 3 weeks ago I said something, and people said, hey, you need to stop fear-mongering. He's not going anywhere. And I'm like, whoa, fear-mongering? I'm just making sure you guys aren't caught off guard if, in fact, he ends up taking a job. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to spread fear. I'm just stating the obvious. When you do a great job in this league, people take notice and they want you to come do that same job for them. It's how this works. And if you're a good organization, you internally prepare for that. You internally prepare. And I think they've done a phenomenal job of internally preparing for Kliff's exit whenever that may come. And I just want one more year. That's it. One more year with better weapons, the expectations being there. And I just want to see what it looks like. Stability, 2 years in a row. Everybody knows what's what. Don't have to learn a new offense. Let's just see, and better weapons. Let's just see what it looks like. And if we kill it again, when we kill it again, then Kliff can go, right? By then, you would have already created an ecosystem inside that building where the next guy that steps in, because the good teams, the good organizations, they set it up so that the replacement is in-house, right? Now, you can only do that for so long before you have to go outside. I liken it to the San Francisco 49ers with their defensive coordinator situation, right? It was Robert Saleh, then it was the Texans coach. Why am I blanking on his name? You know who I'm talking about. And then they had to go outside the building after him, right? Because you ain't got but so many dudes that can do the things that those guys have done, right? DeMeco Ryans. So it was Robert Saleh for like 2-3 years. He killed it, got a job. Then DeMeco killed it for 2 years. He got a job. And then at that point, how many more guys? Like, really, like, people are poaching off of your staff. They're taking your linebackers coach and turn him into a defensive coordinator, right? They're taking your assistant defensive backs coach and turn him into a D-backs coach and giving them the whole entire room, right? And so you don't have enough guys to keep, all right, next man up, right? I remember that with Ron Rivera, right? He had Sean McDermott as his defensive coordinator. He gets the job in Buffalo. Then he had Steve Wilkes as his defensive coordinator. He gets the job in Arizona. And then he gave Eric Washington the defensive coordinator job, and it was awful. And he had to take over, right? There's only, usually you get a 2-coach minimum, right? You get 2 coaches that kill it for you. By the time you get to that third guy in-house, it ain't the same. I think we've set it up so that we've got two guys that could be great successors. Should Kliff leave? Whether it's Brian Johnson or Tavita Pritchard, I think both of those guys, and Pritchard hasn't called plays at this level, so wouldn't be quite sure what that would look like. But obviously he has intimate knowledge of what Jayden is capable of, and Brian Johnson has called plays in this league, and that's who I think would be the next man up is Brian Johnson. And so I just like the fact that they've set it up so that should Kliff, because Kliff is on the trajectory of becoming an NFL head coach again. I think we got one more year of Kliff. That's all I'm asking for. I ran into a viewer at the gym. Shout out to Aaron. Ran into him. And he was like, I just want Kliff for one more year. I said, that's all I want, man. That's all I want, Aaron. One more year. Just give me one more year. And then after that, if we kill it again and the teams come calling and you got to go, I understand. And I think we're going to get that, by the way. I think we're going to get that. I've always said that the only team that scares me is Chicago. And I still feel that way. But the longer we stay in the playoffs, the less likely it is Kliff Kingsbury ends up being a head coach. You can't actually interview coaches that are in the postseason until after the divisional round, I think it is. So, if we last that long, Kliff, they won't be able to interview him anyway. So I said all of that to say this. Don't know how true the report is from Josina. I'm just going to run with it as if it's gospel. According to Josina Anderson, at least 4 teams have reached out to Kliff Kingsbury about their head coaching vacancy. Again, no formal interviews have been requested, which is a good thing. And Ben Johnson's already got like 25, interview requests from teams. Hell, the Bears even requested an interview from Mike McCarthy in Dallas, and the Cowboys shut it down, which kind of points to McCarthy being back in Dallas, right? No such thing has happened here. No request for an interview has happened here. So I feel good about that, but that could change. And we could hear about Kliff Kingsbury being requested for an interview in 3 different spots tomorrow. But as of right now, I feel confident he'll be back. But I just wanted to bring this up to let you know that the shit is real. Kliff Kingsbury is a head coaching candidate based off of what he's been able to do with Jayden Daniels in year 1. Jayden's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and at one point, he was in the MVP conversation, and Kliff is largely responsible for that. And I know a lot of you aren't used to this. I just told you the last time we had a coach leave here to take a job where he was upgrading his title, where he received a promotion, was 2016. Let that sink in. It's 2025. That's how inept we've been in terms of staffs that have been assembled. Nobody wanted our stuff. So it's a new day. I told y'all this a gajillion times. It feels different because it is different. This is further proof of that. This ain't Scott Turner potentially getting some interest after his first season here in 2020 when his team barely scored over 20 points a game. This ain't that. When they told us leading up to that offseason, hey, look out for Scott Turner as a dark horse. He may be a guy that teams look to, check in and see if he's, going to be a head coach this cycle. Yeah, right. You're right. Now, this shit's legit. This one's real. We got ourselves a good one. And hopefully he's got a little bit more magic left in that bag of his. We got some postseason football to take care of. Anyway, I digress. Let's go on to in other news. We heard from the head coach, Dan Quinn. We also heard from the quarterback, Jayden Daniels. We'll talk about what was said there. But before we do that, we'll jump into the initial injury report for Wild Card Weekend for both teams, starting with, of course, the good guys. It's a laundry list for both teams, but as you will find out here shortly with both teams, there's nothing here to see. As a matter of fact, I would tell you that both teams are probably as healthy as they've been for most of the season. Now, obviously, the Buccaneers have guys that are out for the season and things of that nature, and so that's a little bit different. But um, with the guys that are healthy or capable of playing, I think both teams are in a really good spot health-wise. So, DQ told us early in the week on Monday, from a health perspective, he felt really good about where we were. And he doubled down on that today. And he said just about everybody that's able-bodied is going to practice in some form or capacity. And he's like, we're only giving out guys, vet rest for guys that need it. But those guys aren't injured at all, right? So the vet rest, Zach Ertz, Cleveland Farrell, those guys have been getting vet rest all season. Dante Fowler Jr. and Terry McLaurin, all right, got a couple of veterans there that are huge contributors. So you take a little bit off their workload today. Everybody else practice in some capacity. Tyler Biadasz, great news to see him back out here with the ankle. Jeremy Chin, limited with ribs. That's a new injury we weren't aware of, but he's going to be just fine. Brandon Coleman, knee. Good to see him out on the practice field today in limited. Jamison Crowder, groin. Again, didn't know about that one, but he's limited. Cornelius Lucas, groin. We knew about that. He did not play last week. Good to see him out there on the practice field, even in a limited capacity. Then everybody else, John Bates, shoulder, didn't know about that, but he's a full go there. Jayden Daniels, we knew about him having a little soreness with his quad. He's a full participant. Marshawn Lattimore, hamstring. That's a sight for sore eyes, probably the most important full on this entire injury report. Frankie Louvu, shoulder. We knew he did something against Dallas. We didn't know exactly what. It was his shoulder. He was full, and he's going to be good to go. Jordan McGee, hamstring. That also is a sight for sore eyes because I told you I thought he was coming on when he went down against Philadelphia. He was playing really, really well. So I'm glad to see that he potentially could be back because I think he is a guy that can really help the run game tremendously. Quan Martin, illness, full, which is great to see. Obviously, he missed the game on Sunday versus Dallas. And then Kolson Yankoff, they have opened up his 21-day window, all right? He was on IR this entire time with a hamstring injury. And, they love him on special teams. He was playing really well on special teams for us. Gives you an extra tight end if you want to pull him up, make him active. So that's good news that Kolson Yankoff may potentially be back as well. So, again, as I said to you, we're as healthy as we've been pretty much all season. Like, this is good stuff here. This is one of the most non-threatening injury reports we've seen all season. And this dates back all the way to week 1 when we saw this Buccaneers team the first time. Speaking of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, let's look at the ops and their injury report. And just like ours, it's a laundry list of injuries, but it's really nothing serious. Again, most of these guys practiced in some capacity, right? So let's just pick out a few of the names here that should stand out to you as impact players. Levante David, massive, player for them, veteran. He's their Bobby Wagner, essentially. All right. Limited with the knee. He's gonna play. Jamel Dean, probably their best corner. Knee, limited. He's gonna play. All right. Mike Evans, rest. Similar to Terry McLaurin, he was limited today. Just giving him a little bit of rest. Along their defensive line, William Golson, knee, full. Logan Hall, groin, didn't practice, something to keep an eye on. As you continue through, Bucky Irving, shoulder and shin, full, he's fine, right? Jalen McMillan, who stepped up as the number 2 receiver for this team after they had the injury to Chris Godwin. Finger, full, he's fine, right? Cade Otton, this is a big one now. This is one worth watching because he did not play in their biggest game of the season, which was last week against New Orleans. He was out of that game with the knee injury. So that tells you that it was a significant knee injury. That said, limited. He's going to play if you ask me, right? Sterling Shepard has stepped up for them, right? In the absence of, some of their receivers, he's been called upon to have a bigger role. Foot and knee. He has missed some games this season. He played last week. He's limited today. He's going to play this week, right? Tyke Smith, a rookie that's played really well for them at safety. Personal, all right? So that could easily be, something happened back at home, checking up on family, wife is pregnant, whatever. But more likely than not, he'll be ready for Sunday. Antoine Winfield Jr. hasn't played, it feels like, in a little while. Knee, full participant. He's probably going to play, right? Tristan Wirfs, their best offensive lineman at left tackle, quadriceps, limited. He's going to play. So again, you look at all of this stuff, and I'm just telling you, there ain't anything here. There ain't a single guy here where you go, if he can't go, look out. Other than Cade Otton, and I think he's going to play. And again, he practiced. It's not like he was a DMP today. He practiced. So, just like us, don't look for any breaks. More likely than not, they're going to have all their guys. They're going to have a full clip. I'm not mad at it. I ain't glad at it, but I ain't mad at it. So, don't look for any breaks. You want something done, you got to do it yourself. So, heard from DQ today and loved the message from DQ, which was, we're going to keep everything the same, right? We're not changing anything. We're going to do what got us here. And he made a little funny today. He made a little jokey joke. When he showed up on Monday, he told the team, hey, we're in the playoffs now. We're going to do things a little bit different. We're going to practice at night. And he said the players was looking at him sideways like, what? Then he said, man, I'm just bullshitting y'all, man. He said, what have I preached for the entire season for 17 weeks now? Like, you got to keep things consistent, keep things the same, and that's what we're going to do. So, kind of loosened them up a little bit. And I think that was done intentionally to hammer home the point of, hey, let's stay in the moment, but let's be who we are, right? Stay in your regular routines. Don't change anything. Obviously, it's playoff football. There may be a little bit more intensity, a little bit more focus may be required, but continue to stay in your routines. If you get treatment on Tuesdays, get treatment this week on Tuesday, right? If you stay late on Wednesday, stay late on Wednesday this week, right? Do the things that you've been doing all season long that have allowed you to play at the level that you've been playing at. Just lock in, right? So that was one of the messages from DQ today. He talked about the Buccaneers and all of the challenges that they pose, and in the first matchup, and what you can glean from the first matchup. And I'm just going to be honest with you. It was hard going back and watching that first game because we are so different. We're not the same team we were. I don't have to explain that to you. It was like watching a clip from 3 years ago. It felt like it was so long ago. The way we've improved since then is crazy. So it's not much to glean from that first game, to be honest with you, other than, like, defensively, there are some things that you may be able to look at, but even that is going to be altered because Jalen McMillan is a better player than he was in week one. There's no Chris Godwin, so that changes some things. Cade Otton's role in the offense has grown since week one. Bucky Irving is a much bigger part of their offense since week one, et cetera, et cetera. It's a lot of changes with our defense, with their offense. So it's just hard to go back and really glean anything from that week one matchup. He talked about the mindset of being in the postseason. And he's like, this team has earned the right to fight for it. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to fight like hell for this thing. Like, we understand that the Bucs may be the favorites in this game. And look, they're a good team. And I told you, just listening to DQ talk, there's no doubt in my mind that first matchup, versus Tampa is the game that I think stings the most for him in terms of, and we got our ass whooped today. Like, every time he brings that game up, he doesn't let us forget that it wasn't close and they got us really good. Like today, like Monday, he was like, yeah, they beat us up good and it wasn't even close. And the score, it wasn't even as close as the score indicates. And today he was like, yeah, they beat us up pretty good. Like I think he's continuing to beat that into his players' heads. Like, hey, last time we played them, they kicked our ass. They kicked our ass. Just want y'all to know that and remember that. Last time we played them, they beat us up pretty good. Don't let that be lost on you, right? So I think that's what he's selling to his team, and he's done a hell of a job selling it to us as fans and the media as well, because like, we ain't forget, but DQ ain't letting us forget either. He talked about the pledge that we heard about early in the season, and he said, hey, that was my idea, but I wanted the players to kind of take ownership of that. So, I gave them the idea, but I also wanted them to do that without me being a helicopter coach, right? I didn't want to be giving them suggestions. Hey, make sure you add that. Make sure you add that. I wanted them to own it, right? This needed to be theirs. So he talked about that. He talked about playoff football and, the intensity and all of that stuff that comes with it. DQ's been a part of the playoffs each of the last 3 years in Dallas. He's been a part of the playoffs in Atlanta multiple times, went to the Super Bowl, obviously. So he knows all about postseason football. And he's like, at the end of the day, it's still ball. It's still football. There is a one and done element to it. So there is a little bit more focus. But he's like, we just want to live in the moment. We don't want to worry about the past. We don't want to worry about the future. We just want to be in the present. So, again, that's been his messaging all season long. That hasn't changed. He's been very consistent in that, and he remained that way today. So now let's get to the most important things that were said, and that was the updates on injuries. And he really didn't get into specifics. He didn't really need to, because he pretty much threw a blanket over it, which is great, by saying everybody's good. Cornelius Lucas is fine. Tyler Biadasz is fine. He said Marshawn Lattimore hit every marker that they've set for him. He's, ready to go. He was a full participant today. He said tomorrow's going to be the real test. That's when they're going full bore, and that's when they're really going to get after it. And so how he holds up after that will be the key, right? If there are no setbacks there, he should be ready to go on Sunday, and that will be a huge lift to this defense. But everybody, Jordan McGee, Cornelius Lucas, Brandon Coleman, Tyler Biadasz, all the guys that have been dealing with injuries, who either missed the last game or suffered an injury in the last game, like Brandon Coleman, for instance, are all fine and all practice in some capacity today and are trending towards playing and being available on Sunday. Again, we're in a really good spot from a health standpoint. So that feels really, really good. You go to Jayden Daniels, and he talked about, is this being his first postseason? First of all, he started off the press conference by talking about Kliff Kingsbury and, the relationship that they have and how he's learned, about Kliff, and Kliff's learned about him, and their relationship has grown over the course of this season. And to expound upon that later on in the press conference, he was asked about when did he know that this was going to be a good fit for him, that, the front office is solid, the coaching staff is solid, and this, locker room is solid, and this is a place that I can thrive, play and thrive and be happy at. And he said it was pretty early on. That, he said even in the draft process, when they interviewed him, he said they didn't ask me about, like, we saw the Hard Knocks with the Giants when they put him on the whiteboard and they're drawing up plays. He said they didn't do any of that with me. He's like, they literally just asked me how I was doing because they knew how tough of a process it was. They cared about me, the person. And, he said, that resonated with me. So um, he talked about the process of preparing for a playoff game, and he said, I'm just going to keep it consistent. It was funny because Ben Standig, it wasn't Ben Standig, excuse me. It was your boy, Mitch Tisler. This was a good one from Mitch. He asked Jayden about, if he had gone back and watched. Obviously, he had gone back and watched the Week 1 game. And he said, um, "What do you remember about that first play of your career and that game in particular?" And Jayden laughed because Jayden knew that first play won't shit. And we laughed about it last night on the Commanders Kings stream. Me and Rio always bring that play up because it was bonkers, right? It was similar to the Jets game in the preseason. It was similar to the first play against the Eagles. And Jayden has told us before that he gets, butterflies. And, if you've ever performed at something, it doesn't have to necessarily be sports. You could be on a debate team, or you could be, an actor, and you get butterflies. If you're performing or you're doing something in front of people, it's not uncommon to be, somewhat anxious and get those butterflies. I know I used to playing whatever sport. And so I can definitely um side with him on that. And, early on, there's a bit of nervous energy. And the good thing for me in all the sports that I played when I had the nervous energy was I never had the ball, right? It was baseball, it was basketball, it's the jump ball. Like, I'm not a point guard, so I didn't have the ball in my hands. In baseball, I'm an outfielder, or I'm not the leadoff hitter, so I'm not the first one out there. So I had a chance to calm down a little bit. Um, he has the ball in his hands on the first play that he gets out there. So you get that nervous energy, and he let it rip against Tampa. And he said, I had a chance to watch the Tampa game, and so much has changed since then, which it has. He said, but if I could do it all over again, I'd like to have that first play back. Yeah, of course you would. Of course you would. And he smiled, and you could tell that, that one was funny. But he was asked about a game they played, Sweepy. Um, and kind of as a camaraderie thing. DQ even spoke about the camaraderie piece during his press conference. And DQ's kind of harped on that all season about the brotherhood and about making this thing more than just football. And he talked about the Christmas party a couple of weeks ago, and how one of the comments that made him smile was Doug Williams coming over to him and saying, "Hey, this doesn't feel like an office party. It feels like, you're having a party at somebody's house, one of your buddies." So, DQ talked about that, and Jayden kind of expounded upon that. Like, we definitely have built a bond in that locker room, and guys, hang out with one another. And, some of the things we do, we play games, a lot of different games, and that happened to be one of them. And he talked about his relationship with Terry, and he said that, he really didn't know Terry personally before he got here, but he knew of Terry, and he knew he was a good player, but very underrated. And he, was a guy that made plays despite having a number of different quarterbacks. And then he said, but, the thing that has stuck out is that Terry's a God-fearing man, which we all know Terry is a very religious individual. And and Jayden is too. And he said that they share that bond, and they have those conversations, and it's not just about, ball. They can talk about things outside of football. So, um, you know, they are continuing to build that relationship on and off the field. Talked about how hard of a worker Terry is, and kind of the example he sets in the locker room. So he talked about, Bobby Wagner's impact and the advice Bobby is giving them, for the playoffs essentially. And, just kind of taking everything in stride. DQ even talked about Jayden's ability to compartmentalize, and then, that led to Jayden getting a compartmentalized question. And, it was funny because the way it was phrased by Nikki Javala, she knew, look, he's been asked this same question maybe 30 different times in 20 different ways. So she made it 31 in 21 different types of ways. But she asked him about how, he's cool in those situations. And, he when she said it like that, he just smiled because he's like, how many times y'all gonna ask me this shit? Like, yeah, I'm a cool guy. Like, but he was like, it's a combination of learned behavior and that's just my demeanor. And he's like, you can't take a bad play into the next possession. If I miss a third down throw, I can't bring that into the next possession with me. I had to wipe the slate clean, right? If I had, a great example of that is the Eagles game, the second Eagles game. He throws an interception, and that could have been the ball game. If Devontae Smith catches the football, that is the ball game. He doesn't get another shot. But he didn't catch that football. They did settle for the field goal, and he did get another shot, and we saw what he did with it. So, you got to be able to wipe the slate clean. Hey, I made a mistake. Hopefully I get another chance to atone for that mistake, and he did. And so that's his mentality, right? Next play mentality. And so glad he's on our team. So glad that he is on our team. He was asked about what this win could mean for the fan base, knowing that we haven't won since 2005 in the postseason. And he was like, I mean, that's good for the fans that have stuck it out, yada, yada, yada. But you can tell he's young. He really don't understand, like, what that would mean to us. He was just like, we just appreciate their support. And but what it would mean for us in the locker room is, opportunity to play another game, divisional round, yada, yada, yada. But it's a big effing deal if they win this game. We haven't won a playoff game in 2 decades. So, yeah, winning would be a big deal. But again, he's young. He doesn't know any better. I just want him to go out there and leave it all out on the field. And what happens, happens. But we feel good about 5. So, before we take our first look at this game, got to plug the watch party. I know a lot of you have mentioned, and I get it. It's a Sunday night. A lot of y'all got to work the next day. So I get, the hesitancy to, leave your house. I get all of that. But for those of you who are coming out, who want to support, who want to be in that environment, we're going to be at City's Bar and Grill on Sunday evening, starting at 6 p.m. The doors will open at 6 p.m. Obviously, the game starts at 8, so we'll be watching the Eagles-Packers game, and we'll be exchanging pleasantries early on, whether it's 5 of us, or it's 25 of us, or it's 55 of us, or 155 of us. We're going to turn up, and we're going to have a great time watching this game. And like I said, it's a celebration either way, whether it's a win and we moving on and we're celebrating our first playoff dub in almost 20 years, or it's a celebration of the season that was 12-5 and, the first in this recalibration. And so either way, it's going to be a hell of a time, one that you won't forget. So for those of you who are on the fence about getting a ticket, purchase the ticket, all right? Link is in the description of this video, also going to be pinned to the comment section. We're going to be in Richmond at City's Bar and Grill. We're going to have a hell of a time. And I also have, we've blocked off a few hotels as well that will allow you to be able to book if you want to come down and you don't want to have to drive back home that same night. We've got a couple of hotels that we've got on ice for us. A couple of them actually have given us some deals. So if you're interested in that as well, hit me up and we can also facilitate that on your behalf too. So a lot of options, but City's Bar and Grill, if you haven't already bought a ticket, what are you waiting on? Be a part of this fun. Looking forward to chopping it up with y'all. Let's make it happen. Sunday, January 12th, 6 p.m. the doors open. Game starts at 8, and we're going all the way till 2 a.m. in the morning, all right? This is a party we having, right? Watch party, and then live stream afterwards, post-game setup. So y'all know what it is. It's a lifestyle around here. So hopefully you can join your man Louie T at City's Bar and Grill in Richmond as we do it big for the good guys to watch the Commanders in their first playoff game since 2020. Speaking of which, let's take our first look at this playoff game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lot of wrinkles to this game. A lot of stories inside of the matchup. And the first thing is obviously Marshawn Lattimore versus Mike Evans. And DQ was asked about that today. And he was like, that doesn't slow down the flow of the game. That's a conversation for you guys to have. But for us, it's just about going out playing ball. But we all know there's a little extra sauce there when it comes to those two. They don't like each other. It is going to be personal. And I don't think they've ever met in the postseason. I don't think. I could be wrong. Matter of fact, in Brady's Super Bowl year in 2020, I think they beat the Saints, if I'm not mistaken. So they probably did play in the playoffs that year. I don't know if both of them were healthy. Evans was healthy. I don't know if Marshawn Lattimore was healthy or not. But if I'm not mistaken, I think that was Drew Brees' last NFL game, was that playoff game. He was not good, by the way. But if they did play in that game, this would probably be their second matchup in the postseason against one another. But I know Lattimore is chomping at the bit. I know Mike Evans is chomping at the bit. So that's a storyline onto itself. But for me, the biggest storyline going into the game is, can we contain Baker Mayfield? He's had an awesome season. He probably feels snubbed. And the guy that he's looking at, like similar to us with Frankie Louvu, we're looking at Jared Verse and saying, hey, you don't belong here, bro. That's Frankie Louvu's spot that you have. It's bullshit. Pretty sure Baker Mayfield's looking at the NFC quarterback roster for the Pro Bowl and saying, okay, Jared Goff should be there. Okay. I don't know who the other guy is, but he should be there. What's this rookie doing here? Yeah, I see his numbers. They're not even close to mine. What is he doing there? So he might have an axe to grind. And I'm looking at his numbers and I'm saying, yeah, you were pretty effing awesome this year. 41 touchdowns, 19 interceptions, I believe, which is pretty high, right? Right around the lead for the NFL. But shit, 41 touchdowns offsets 19 interceptions, 16 interceptions, whatever that number is. 4,500 yards passing, 71.4% completion percentage. Baker was doing the damn thing this year. And he didn't run for 900 yards like Jayden did this season. But you know what he did? He ran for over 300 yards. Did Baker. So he's plenty mobile enough. And if we can't get to Baker, it's going to be a long effing day. So when you talk about this Buccaneers team, I'm not scared of their defense at all. I think we can move the ball on them and have a ton of success. I'm not worried about their defense at all, one bit. The only thing that I know they do extremely well is they stop the run. And so the only thing that scares me about their defense is that if they're able to do what everybody else has done since the bye against us, which is stop the run, they're going to put it on Jayden's shoulders. It's going to be a 5-game again. And how many times can you go to the well and ask 5 to be a magician and to put on his cape, right? Which is why you need guys like De'Ami Brown and Austin Eckler and guys who can catch short passes underneath to make something happen so that you take some of this pressure off of Jayden and he doesn't have to do everything himself. But when it's all said and done, I know we can move the ball on this Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. The question is, can we stop their offense from moving the ball successfully and consistently on our defense? Having Marshawn Lattimore helps a whole hell of a lot. But that's not the end all be all. We still got to stop the run. Bucky Irvin has been running that bitch here of late. And we know that's not one of our strong suits, stopping the run. So it starts there, stopping the run. He had some big hits late in that game in week 1. They wore us down on the ground, and eventually they popped some big runs late in that game. And Bucky Irvin popped the biggest one. So that's one of the things we got to try to do is slow down their offense. And it starts by stopping the run. And then at some point, you got to get your hands on Baker Mayfield and get him down. Not just get your hand on him, but get him down. And he's proven to be a slippery mofo this season. So I am concerned about their offense. I'm not as concerned about their defense, but I am aware that they're going to stop the run and they're going to put an emphasis on Jayden to be smart. They're going to try to confuse him. They're going to give him looks, just like the Falcons did, where they show one thing and then at snap they drop into something else. And if Jayden, isn't careful, he got against the Falcons. Don't think that they're not watching that film and saying, okay, we can maybe mimic some of that. Maybe get him to give us one. So, got to be careful. And we know Bowles is going to try to switch it up. But we got opportunities. Their corners can't cover Terry. And there will be opportunities, I think, in this game. Diami as well, for plays to be made. And unlike these last 4 games, where there have been opportunities for plays to be made and we didn't make them, Saints game sticks out like a sore thumb. That Cowboys game, OZ with a drop in the end zone. We got to make them in this game. You may not get another chance. Can't be turning the ball over. Right? Can't be turning the ball over. Can't be dropping interceptions. Can't miss an opportunity to recover a fumble. Those have happened over the last 4 weeks. Saints game again. Cowboys game again. With Frankie Louvu in particular. When opportunities present themselves, we have got to pounce. Got to stay away from the penalties. We had a lot of penalties. If you remember in week 1, we had a lot of penalties in that game. And most of them were on third downs, giving the Bucs more life. We have to stay away from the penalties. We got to stay away from the mistakes. We got to stay away from the turnovers. And we have to maximize our opportunities, whether it be on offense or defense. The best defense might be our offense in this game. Keeping Tampa's offense off the field by us possessing the football and having long, sustained drives that end in touchdowns might be the antidote. It might be the answer. But we'll talk more about that on Thursday when we go behind enemy lines, and especially Friday when we get into the keys to victory and ultimately the prediction for this game. I'll be live tomorrow night. And I got debt to pay tomorrow. So tomorrow's going to be a lit show because my guy Dave, shout out to my guy David Brown, who made a bet with me earlier this season, said, hey, I'm coming on your trip to the DR. Shout out to everybody that's coming on the trip to the DR. Still plenty of time if you out there and you want to go. All right, that link is in the description of this video. But we're going to have a time on Sunday night, the watch party, and we're going to have an even bigger time in the DR. Right? And David said earlier in the season, I'm going to make a bet with you. You got to take a shot of Grand Marnier for every loss that we have at the end of the season. And if you do that, I'll go on your trip to the DR. I said, bet. That's a bet. And I said, you do know the fellas ain't going to let me down. Since you made this bet with me, they're going to play their asses off. This was in week 2 we made this bet. And I said, they're going to play their asses off. We're not going to lose, but, 6 games max now because of this bet. And we went 12-5. So I have to pay my debt. I got 5 shots to take. That'll be happening tomorrow night live. So I'll be drinking plenty of water throughout the course of the day to prepare myself. I'll be good. All right. So we'll be lit figuratively and literally tomorrow night on the show. But it's going to be a good one as we will go behind enemy lines with this Buccaneers team and really dig into those numbers and talk about some of the things that should concern us and some areas of vulnerability that we need to be trying to take advantage of with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. We'll do that live tomorrow night. But as far as tonight is concerned, we'll be live on the NFC East Super Friends channel. And I'm going to be reserved. I'm not going to be up there talking a whole lot of shit. I'm chilling tonight. They can't get me out of my zone. I'm feeling good. I'm 12-5 heading to the playoffs, and I got the best quarterback in the division. You can't tell me nothing. You can't tell me nothing. So I'm chilling tonight. But I might get under somebody's skin. Maybe, maybe not. But I'm not going to be arguing, going back and forth with nobody tonight. I'm in my zone. I'm chilling. So we'll be doing that tonight live. Feels good to be playing bonus football. We go into the offs. We go into the offs. We go into the offs. Yes, indeed. I will see you guys tonight for the NFC East Super Friends, if that's your thing. If that's not your thing, I will see you tomorrow night for Commanders Nightly News Live. Until then, I'm your man Louie T, signing off. Take care. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the